Hey everybody, Beer Money Doug. We are in Hamilton?
Close.
Oh.
Shandon,
Ohio with Mr. Brent Payne. We are gonna do a behind the helmet interview, and we're gonna learn maybe some of the details that we don't get out of him when we do have an interview regarding the business. So, when did you guys start your tractor pulling career? Your dad was involved in tractor pulling, correct?
That's correct, yeah. My dad had a 180 Alice Chalmers diesel tractor many years ago, 40 years ago or more, and kind of a light super tractor, and lasted a little while, realized he had to raise a family, so we got rid of that, and then started pulling antiques years later. I started pulling, he kind of got me into pedal tractor pulling when I was a couple years old, and did that as long as I could. Around Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, wherever he wanted to take us. So we did that together, and then we started, when I could hold enough to push the clutch in, I started pulling antique tractors, and we did that for a little while, and then on into the super stocks and so forth in the late 90s.
So you ever owned a diesel tractor, or has everything always been alcohol?
I owned one diesel tractor myself. Bought a chassis from Elvin Doman several years ago, one of the old Hurricane Alice tractors, and rebuilt it into a light pro stock. Ran it for just a little while and ended up selling with the Todd Davidson, and it's become the tractor they run in limited pro stock now.
Okay, cool. But tell us a little bit about your business.
So I own GMS, Genie's Machine Shop, and also Humpco Manufacturing. Now we've acquired that a few years ago, so we've kind of merged them all into GMS Manufacturing Machine, and we produce parts for truck and tractor pulling, from driveline parts to engine components.
So from a 706 rear end to a unlimited mod.
Correct.
They can fix you up for a differential for your rear end. Explain to us how your partnership with Earl transpired and came about.
Can be kind of a funny story a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I had we got up when I was in Gene's shop in Kentucky when I worked down there before, years before I bought the company. Earl had called and wanted us to build an engine for him. He says, "I want you to build me a 426 Alice Chalmers from Super Farm." Okay, that's fine. What do you got? Well, so we talked on the phone, kind of told us what he had. A few days later, he calls back and says, "Hey, who do you ship this thing through? They won't insure this block for $25,000." And I said, "Is your 426 gold plated? Because there's not a 426 in the country worth $25,000. And he kind of got a little aggravated, and I was trying to be funny, but anyway, started to hit it off there. And so we built his engine and went on down the road, and he started calling every day. "When's that thing going to be done? When's it going to be done? I got to go pull up my hometown fair and this and that." And I said, "Listen," I said, "you can either come and get it and take it back to the guy that built it for you before and throw it apart again, or you can wait until we're done with it and we'll do it right and you won't have any problems." So he waited, and then they ran that same engine for several years. And they got as far as a runner-up in the Grand National Tour with the 426 Alice Super Farm, which hasn't happened a lot. So moving forward, then he decided he wanted to get into the alcohol tractor business, and we've kind of had a more of a me as a builder, them as a customer relationship for several years, and then after they kind of tried a few different things with their team, they realized that it was harder for them to run out of North Carolina all the time. They needed to have a more central location for home base, and so we forged the deal to take care of the team for them. And ever since then we've been partners that way. So
very successful.
Very successful. Yeah. I mean, it's he has a really good ability to put a team together on whatever he's doing. And he can, if things start straying, he can help pull back, and he gives you some rope to try new things. And is it an unlimited budget? Absolutely not. If we have a good idea, he's on board. If we can prove it's going to be worth trying. So Earl is absolutely key in the success of the GALOT Motorsports team and GMS, because he has allowed me to do some testing. So
that's cool. So the GALOT team consists of 2 unlimited super stocks.
Yep.
a light pro stock,
Mhm.
and a future light super stock. Correct.
That's correct. That's correct. We had a super farm at one time, and it's kind of in the barn and still basically intact and ready to go, but it's probably not going to come back out again to stay in as museum. We tried the Mini, and that was a fun project to try, and we learned a lot, but it just ultimately didn't work. The light super is kind of a new challenge. You know, we've kind of achieved pretty well everything we want to achieve in the open super stock class, and our team is just not really good at just doing the same thing over and over again, so we want to try something new.
Can you elaborate on the Mini project that didn't work?
Sure.
I mean, was it at the application of a Pro Charger wouldn't work in a pulling tractor? Or?
Well, there was a few factors that didn't work.
And obviously, we know the end result is somebody was scared. And
well, that was the beginning result. So that was kind of the beginning, right? So we thought, man, we got the Pro Charger. It's working really good in there. And the drag cars, Pro Line and Pro Charger wanted to help us out with some educational things on the mini rod. I liked the idea of learning to do some more of the V8 work, try something new. We quickly learned that nobody else in the class wanted us to try anything new. Unbelievable force against that project. You wouldn't believe how many people fought against it. And but on the other hand, the fans were never more ecstatic about a project we've ever been involved
Right.
with. So on our side, we were like, okay, we got to push this thing forward, at least give it as the best shot as we can, no matter what. And we did. And we tried a lot of things. We put a lot of effort into it. At the end of the day, you know, we've started noticing the Pro Charger drag cars. You know, they're running for 3.5, 4 seconds, and at the end of the run, a lot of times that Pro Charger's giving up. You know, it didn't hang in together for very, very long. And, well, 3.5, 4 seconds only gets us to 175, 200 feet. You know, so what we learned is that it was building so much heat up in the intake manifold that it would start shredding the belt when the tune-up got right. And if we tuned it back down, it wouldn't leave the start line. Long story short, it doesn't make enough torque to be drivable. It makes enough horsepower that it's overdriven at the top end, so there's just it wasn't going to work for the sport we're in. So, and of course I kind of was the guy getting it down the track, trying to sort out the bugs, and I'm not really built for a mini rod. So none of that really panned out really well for us, but it was a good experience.
Tell us about, you've had some experiences in Europe. We talked about that yesterday a little bit, that you've been fortunate to travel to Europe, take in the European events, and actually drive in a couple pulls.
Yeah, I actually started going to Europe in 1998. A friend of mine, Willem Veldhuizen, he's got a twin-engine, 6-cylinder modified tractor called Bits and Pieces. It's a beautiful tractor, runs very well. He's always had a tractor called Bits and Pieces. It was a super stock alcohol tractor for many years. And, so he invited me to come over there and stay with him when I was 19 years old. That was the first airplane trip I'd done by myself, and I decided to go to Europe. So I wanted to learn. I was always intrigued about it. Stayed with Willem for a week, and we went to a pull at Ahoy Stadium. And lo and behold, that's where Terry Blackburn was trying his first new component tractor. So kind of hung out with Terry and his family, and Josh was a little kid, and we kind of did a few things with Jeff Hurt was there because he come over with David Richardson. We had a heck of a time with that, and Josh as a kid, we kind of we did some things we shouldn't have done with Josh at the time, but that's how we all become friends. So anyway, that was in 1999. That was the first trip I made to Europe. A few years later, we had our tractor running. I was Grand National Rookie of the Year. We finished second place. Tractor looked nice. That's with the color of money. That's correct. In 2002, we were invited to come to pull in Ahoy Stadium in Europe, in the Netherlands, and as an invitational deal for their pull, and with Dennis Johnson and the Shag Nasty. So we put our tractors in a container and we hauled them to Europe and went over there with their families and pulled there. That was the first time for that. Our tractor didn't make it through the first hook. We had some troubles with turbochargers and things, and so the second run that day, I got to drive Willem Veldhuizen's tractor and made an exhibition on that. Fast forward a few more years to 2017, we went over with both GALOT tractors and the GALOT team and ran the same event, and was as an invitational. Recently, I guess in 2018, I got invited to go to the European Championships with the Mud Patrol team of Ton Van Eyck, and they wanted me to drive their tractor in the European Championship. And first time I sat on the tractor, drive it out the end, come back for the pull off, and I win the pull. And never been on the tractor before in my life, and I don't know how in the hell I did it, but it just worked out good. They have a great team that set the tractor up right. I drove it like I, always drove things, and it was a great day. So, and then since then we've been over there multiple times to different events in Europe, and helped with some teams and visited some customers over there. And I enjoy going over there and learning more things.
What's it like to put that kind of investment in a container and hope you see it when it gets there, and then hope it gets home?
It's pretty stressful when we've had a pretty, always had a really pretty nice hauler to haul the things in, right? And they got lights and generators and all that. You put this thing in a box, a steel box with a wood floor, and the sides are bent up. And the last time we put the container, we had to spread it apart because the back had been dented in to get the tractors in. And we're trying to load this thing at 5 o'clock in the morning because we pulled at Louisville and had to come back after Louisville to get it loaded up, and everybody's tired. And we got, a land-all trailer with tractors on it. We're tipping them up and trying to get them into the container, but we just did it, and we felt like we wanted to do it, so we did it. And yeah, it's stressful.